Hello and welcome back to the track. And with the Australian Grand Prix just around the corner, I figured now is the perfect time for me to give you guys my 10 crazy and arguably predictions for the season. Team changes, podiums, winners, and wieners. Like, will Ferrari be able to win the Drivers' Championship with Ferrari, or is he gonna choke under pressure? Will we see rookies on the podiums, maybe even winning races? There's so much that's gonna happen this season. And before we get to lights out, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like the video, and away we go. Also, if you guys manage to stay to the end of the video, there's going to be a very special message at the end of this. All right, number 10. We'll start things off with the Papaya team. And my prediction for this team is that Piastri is going to outscore Lando Norris. Look, this is going to be Piastri's third year in Formula 1. His first year, he placed 14th in the Drivers' Championship. His second year, he placed 4th on the Drivers' Championship. And on top of that, he won races that year as well. And going from 14th to 4th, that's a 10-place grid jump that we're seeing in his performance. His biggest advantage in all of this is the fact that he's very calm, cool, and collected, and we've seen that out of him. Let's not forget the Hungarian ring where Lando Norris was supposed to give him the place back. If you go back to that race and you listen to the radio comms the entire time, you can hear Piastri just being extremely calm about the situation with the most to lose. And then let's not forget the dive bomb of a move that he pulled off in Azerbaijan against Charles Leclerc on that turn 1. He is really good. People underestimate him. This is going to turn into a Lewis Hamilton versus Oscar Piastri season. That's my prediction on it, at least. And then moving on to number 9, Carlos Sainz securing a podium for Williams. Look, this is Carlos Sainz we're talking about. The smoothest operator. I'm not just dick riding here, I promise you. If you can look past the fact that everything we see in pre-testing isn't 100% accurate, him having the fastest time throughout the entire 3 days does speak volume in a sense. Regardless of what sort of strategy or program the other teams were, nobody was still able to clock a faster time than him. Also, out of the 9 years that he's competed in the sport, 7 of those years he has placed within the top 10, and every year better than the last since joining Renault. They have the support, they have the talent, they have the development, they have the money. Now they have the drivers, and this year they were actually able to bring a car to preseason testing, unlike last year where they were behind everybody by like a month in as far as the development of the car goes. Saying that Carlos Sainz gets a podium, I don't really think it's that impossible. Now for number 8, I have Jack or Pierre losing their seat to Franco Colapinto. Honestly, this could be its own video because that entire situation is an entire ball of just fuck. Major key here is Flavio. Here's the thing, if you watch season 7 of Drive to Survive, you know exactly the kind of man that Flavio is. He's ruthless, he doesn't care about your feelings. He gave Esteban Ocon the boot because he didn't like his attitude towards the end of the year and gave Jack Doohan the chance to compete in that race. If he had crashed that car, I promise you Colapinto would be in that seat right now instead of Jack Doohan. Red Bull were also considering paying Williams to bring Franco over to Red Bull. That is a massive green flag. But the fact that Pierre Gasly didn't cost the money a single cent by not crashing the car, and they placed 6th in the Constructors' Championship, he must have dumped a buttload of money to get Franco. And you don't spend that kind of money on somebody unless you have plans to put him in your car if one of your other 2 drivers don't perform. Holy crap, I just realized how much I talk with my hands. And Colapinto was nothing short of impressive when he joined the Formula 1 grid at the end of last season when Sargent got the boot. He's got talent, he's ballsy. We all saw what he did with Fernando Alonso. I think it was in the US Grand Prix. Flavio, again, wouldn't spend that much money on somebody unless you had plans to replace one of your other drivers. I thought I was going to have a much harder punchline for this one, but I don't, so let's move on to the next one. Number 7, Lance Stroll is going to lose his seat by 2026 in Aston Martin. Don't click out of the video. I know what I'm saying sounds just completely outrageous, but just hear me out. He will lose his seat unless he does well, which he won't because he never has. Adrian Newey sort of has hinted at the fact that if people can't perform, he's not going to tolerate them. And the amount of power that Lawrence Stroll is giving him, if they don't see Lance Stroll doing anything with the car, then they're not going to keep him around. Especially when you have people like Adrian Newey and Andy Cowell. Them alone are not talent that you want to have it go to waste because one driver can't perform. He has been in the sport for close to 10 years and he has nothing to show for it. There has never been more pressure for Lance to perform. And if he doesn't, and if Fernando Alonso outscores him by a mile, I don't see him being in that seat for 2026. Number 6, I have Lewis Hamilton winning the Drivers' Championship with Ferrari. And there's a lot of things that lead me to believe this. One of them being the fact that Ferrari are running a pull rod suspension rather than a push rod suspension. Mercedes didn't want to do that when Hamilton wanted it. Ferrari's giving that to him right away. With the pace that Ferrari showed last year, and on top of that, the momentum that the team has right now, being in the constructors fight at the end of the year last year, they know that they have a good car in their hands. They just need to be able to beat McLaren right now. But you also think about how Lewis Hamilton was able to take a Mercedes to that first place podium in Silverstone last year. Really goes to show how much he really still is capable of winning races despite not winning a single race in 2023. Not to mention the fact that Vasseur is going to be working with him again. They worked together a lot during his early career, during his GP2 and GP3 era, which a lot of people don't know, but these two guys are actually really close. And the fact that they're going to get to work together again with their combined knowledge and expertise really sets Lewis Hamilton up for success and increases chances to become the first ever driver to win the Drivers' Championship 8 times. It's going to be insane. He will officially be the greatest ever. Just throwing that out there. Number 5, I think a lot of people are going to like this, but I think we're going to have a close replica, if not an exact replica, of what 2012 was. 2012 was a very exciting year for Formula 1. The first 6 races of that year were won by 6 different drivers. That created a lot of hype around the sport. It also brought it down to the wire at the end of the season that year, and I think that's exactly what's going to happen. Lewis Hamilton is still going to win, but I don't think it's going to be a walk in the park. There's not going to be any point where any team or driver has a massive advantage on the rest of the competition here. There are going to be at least 6 different race winners at the end of this year. They may not happen at the beginning, but there's going to be at least 6, and I'm putting Leclerc to win Monaco for a second year in a row. Number 4, the Constructors' Championship is going to be decided at the last race, and it's going to be between McLaren, Mercedes, and Ferrari. Potentially Red Bull if they're able to find some good pace after the regulation changes when it comes to the whole flexibility of the rear wing and the front wing. At the end of 24, we got to see Scarlet versus Papaya. Mercedes didn't really have a great package throughout the entire year. The car had pace, they just didn't know how to find it. And I think going into this year, they are going to be able to find that pace for the cars. It could potentially put them in contentions for the constructors at the end of this year. But it's not just about the fact that Mercedes could bring a good package. I think the fact that there's 6 really talented rookies on the grid, that's going to mess up the points. I think people are not going to be placing where they usually expect to or do better than they have done before. And I also think that there's going to be a lot of mistakes done by the rookies that are going to affect the big team somehow, some way. It is during those times where we see teams really capitalize. Safety cars can make you or break you in a race. You could be dead last, but if you catch that safety car pit stop at the right time, you could win the whole race. That's why I think this year is going to be so close. Not because one car has more pace than the other, but just because of the unpredictability of what the grid is going to do. But also there's some really strong contenders. Lewis Hamilton and a Ferrari. Leclerc's really coming into his own right now. McLaren having 2 number 1 drivers. Max is still going to be the greatest out there despite of the car that he's in. You have teams that are finding pace like Haas. Aston Martin is a really stacked team now. I know their focus is in 25, but 26, that doesn't mean that they can't find some pace at some point this year. Número 3. That's Spanish for number 3. I have a rookie winning at least 1 race this year. When you look at the teams that they're in, the only 2 that really have a chance here is Antonelli and Lawson. When you look at Antonelli, out of 7 championships that he competed in before his debut in Formula 1, he won 5 of them back to back to back to back to back to back. Sound like logic. Yes, he crashed in that free practice 1 session. So what? When you look at the entire preseason testing, Kimi stayed on track the whole time. So saying that he crashed in free practice 1 literally doesn't mean shit. But then you also have Liam Lawson, somebody with a lot of experience. 11 races under his belt. He's gonna be the most confident and experienced rookie. He has the biggest odds as far as who can win a race. So between those 2, I think one of them is going to win a race. My money's on Antonelli before Lawson. Number 2, Haas wins the Constructors' Championship. Psych, but they are going to get at least 1 podium, and I think they're going to be the top of the midfield teams. I think that they're going to finish at the Constructors in either 5th or 6th, potentially 4, but that's too ambitious. Definitely 5th or 6th. Here's why. Haas found some really good pace at the end of the year last year. It really seems like that team is coming together. This is the first time that Gene doesn't have to spend a single money out of his own pockets to support the team throughout the year. And then when you look at their driver lineup, you have Esteban Ocon, who's a race winner. He's gotten a couple podiums. We saw what he did with Pierre in Brazil last year. He's a solid driver. And I think that now that he's in a team that he really enjoys, because we know how tough things got between him and Flavio at the end of the year last year, I think that he has his best chance to score another podium and really bring Haas back to some form of their previous glory days. And then you look at Oliver Behrman, somebody who we know can perform under pressure. He was told, hey, you're about to be Ferrari's youngest driver ever, get in that seat. Not only did he get in that seat, he finished the race and he scored points on his debut in Formula 1. And then the same thing happened with Haas when Kevin Magnussen was banned for a race because he received 12 penalties in 1 year. He then went on to finish that race and score points for Haas again. What he does is really impressive as far as the amount of experience that he has versus what he has accomplished. I'm not going to take that third race into consideration because everybody almost died in Brazil. And I think when you combine a strong team that found some pace and two drivers that are good, I'm not going to say great. I think they're really good drivers. I think Oliver Behrman's actually a future champion. But when you combine all of that, I think Haas actually has one of the most solid lineups for this year. And I think that's what's going to propel them to be either the top of the midfield or the bottom of the top field. And last but not least, if you've made it to this part of the video, I want to say thank you so much for your support. But this is probably the part where you're going to be like, this guy is crazy, he doesn't know what he's talking about. But just hear me out. Max Verstappen will end his time in Red Bull by the end of 2025 or the very beginning of 26. Hear me out. The only reason why Red Bull won a championship last year is because of Max. If it had been anybody else in that seat, Red Bull wouldn't have even been considered to be in contention for any sort of championship. Max is somebody who wants to win. So when you have a team that's really right at the beginning of their downfall, they're losing staff left and right, they lost Adrian Newey, they lost a solid second driver, I think that Max is now going to start thinking about the possibility of going to other teams, especially when you have teams like Aston Martin and Mercedes interested in you. We also Drive to Survive, or at least I hope everybody saw Drive to Survive. And if Mercedes can potentially present Max and Josh with like something that says this is where we are going to be expected to be by the beginning or the end of 26, new regulations, a lot of things are going to change, a lot of unexpected things are going to happen. But you also have Aston Martin, who have Adrian Newey, Honda, Indy Cowell, a brand new wind tunnel. All of a sudden, all these other teams are starting to look semi-interesting to Max. And I think that's what's going to get him to step away from Red Bull, because it's going to take a lot for Red Bull to rebuild everything that they've accomplished. Right now, they're not in a good spot, and Max sees that, so does Josh, and so do the rest of us. And there you have it, my bold and arguable 10 predictions for 2025 in Formula 1. Do you think I sound like I know what I'm talking about? Let me know down in the comments. Also, let me know what your own predictions are. Let's start some conversations down there. And once again, I just want to say thank you for watching. I appreciate all the support. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and now box, because I have to edit this before free practice 1. Can't forget about that message. If you managed to make it to the end of this video, I just want to say thank you. I started recording this video, my mic died halfway through the first recording session of it, and I didn't realize until the next day when I started editing. So I had to charge my mics, and by the time they were charged, I didn't realize that I didn't plug in the headphone jack all the way into the camera. So I re-recorded it for the second time with no audio. So I actually recorded this video 3 times, and I just want to say thank you for sticking through it. Okay, box, I have to edit this now.